Today, we have a case of a guy who's earning pretty well and has questions on saving up for his parents and his child. This I'll answer right to the very end, so stay tuned for it. And just a quick heads up, he's also doing a side hustle that's earning him $1,500 a month. I'll share with you in a while, but let's get to the case background. How about that? First up, property. He's owning this HDB flat as joint ownership with his wife. Price of it, based on last market transaction, around $900,000. So my quick guess is this is either a 4-room new HDB flat, those that just BTO, or a 5-room older one. Then comes next, outstanding loan balance of $344,000, which will clear in 12.25 years. If I were to interpret this correctly, that means he's paying about $2,600, $2,700 per month, correct? And that's because the loan tenure looks quite short at 12.25 years. So what I did next was to actually quiz him for his age, and he shared that he's mid-30s and his wife also of the same age. Which brings me to this guess that he probably shortened his HDB loan to this 12.25 years, or he's been aggressively paying it downwards. You know, when you make prepayments for your mortgage, it's the same effect as reducing the tenure of the loan. I don't know if you understand that or not, because you're forward paying next month's principal and next month's principal. So your loan tenure actually shortens. And on this point, I'd like to share that if you are on a HDB loan, it's actually okay to stretch it as of current market conditions. There are a few reasons why. The first is that if you stretch your HDB loan, it incurs 2.6%. And if you transfer your OA to SA, for example, you get 4.05%, correct, in terms of interest. That is actually how you get a good debt leverage kind of a situation. But take note again, if you transfer OA to SA, it's a one-way ticket. You cannot use it for future housing. So make that move only if you're very sure that you don't need that OA already. Then the second thing of current market condition is that if you invest your OA, you can park it into treasury bills, and that'll be around 3.7% right now. So it's still better than paying off 2.6% HDB loan. And last but not least, the third idea is actually to invest the CPF OA instead of paying off this 2.6% HDB loan. Some popular places include Endawas, which is a robo platform, and they actually have been marketing a bit on their CPF investment solutions. And to that point, actually I also like to highlight that there are many avenues to invest your CPF OA. FSM1 also has it, Poems also has it, and if there's any management, the annual rep fee cannot be more than 0.4%. Do know also to invest CPF OA, the first 20,000 cannot be touched, and you can also use it to buy stocks, for example, subject to the limit, and there's also a quarterly transaction charge by the bank. With that cleared, let's go back to some other numbers of his assets to understand a bit better what to do financially. I quizzed him also in terms of his cash balances, and he reads, right now in cash bank account, $223,000. In equity, $148,000, and in bonds, $40,000. I think the amount of equity looks pretty small. He can easily invest a bit more, but maybe his risk appetite is a bit lower, I'm not too sure. But it goes to show also that he likely has enough to pay off this housing loan immediately, correct? And still have some surplus, but probably not enough for early retirement right now. But when I see big numbers in terms of savings, I always quiz this following question, that is this amount from a big bonus or inheritance or a windfall, or is it gradually built up? Because if it's the earlier situation, that means that there's no financial discipline. Whereas for the later situation, it means that the person has a good saving habit and that no need to quiz further on budgeting and financial literacy. Most likely it's there. And as he has shared, he actually gradually built it up over the years of working since 2012. So this is a very good positive example. And he's actually shared further that right now, 100,000 of this cash is parked into UOB Stash. 117,000 is parked into OCBC 360 and some other bank accounts $6,000. And when I saw that, my first thought is, if you park monies in OCBC 360, that 17,000 if now is getting not much in terms of interest. You might as well move it out to Singapore savings bonds or buy treasury bills if you really want it guaranteed. Up next is actually important information regarding income that might explain how he's built up this amount of savings. He's actually shared that right now, his take-home pay is $9,400 after CPF. And he's also doing a side hustle, which brings him $1,500 per month. Take a quick guess what exactly is that side hustle? Because I was also curious to find out. And that side hustle that he's doing is actually tuition teaching. So right now he's taking students for O levels, math and science, and he's raking in $1,500 per month, which means he easily has 4 or 5 students, correct, burning weekends for it. Which goes to show, if you don't have the right level of savings, use today's case as inspiration. You need to find the right drive, someone who is earning way better, someone who is possibly okay financially, is still working very hard, possibly on weekends also, on a side hustle. So no excuses of not having a good enough savings rate, which is my first gut feeling of his situation, and he actually validated it. More information surfaced that his wife's take home is $5,000, which means the total family's take home is about $16,000 thereabouts. They have home expenses for utilities and groceries, $500 from him, $500 from wife. Now to this point, should it be equal or should it be at a different ratio? You know, there's this saying that it should be equity, not equal. The one earning more should give a bit more in proportion, but that's just food for thought, and as long as they are happy with that arrangement, it's also fine. But more importantly, I think this amount of household expenses is actually a very prudent amount. It's quite close to what I'm seeing on my books also, which means there's likely no lavish items like wine and high-class products. This is a very prudent household expenditure. Personal expenses, $1,000, includes food and transport. And I can quickly guess that there's no car, because if not, this $1,000 will have exceeded. There's payment to mom to look after child, $1,200. And insurance cost of $600. Wow, so if this is the entire expense equation, then very likely he's saving big amounts up, correct? At least $5,000, correct? You know, previously I've shared that those who feel financially free actually are saving on average $4,114 per month. And it is true, for a case like this, the income is good, the expenses are actually very prudent, and he is in this category of saving at least $4,100 per month. Which leads to the question that he has. What should I do with monthly savings to fulfill the following goals as early as possible? Have sufficient to pay for kids' education. Have sufficient to give parents monthly allowance. From a first glance, it doesn't seem too difficult, and I'll cover it later. But I want to touch on firstly the insurance portion of $600 to see if there's anything to squeeze from that. Because again, the goal is how to reach there earlier, correct? How to build a bigger long-term investment bucket. Now to the insurance part, he shared a little bit of details. There isn't a full Excel sheet, but he shared that he has a Tokio Marine insurance plan. He has 2 Prudential plans, PruShield and PruVantage. These are plans on his books, and he wishes to reduce the premium of current insurance while maintaining some coverage. Maybe you have a similar situation. So let me first mention a bit on PruVantage. I guess this could be one of the bigger items on his books, and PruVantage is an investment-linked plan. Investment-linked plans have these features. You can premium holiday if you want to reduce premium. That just means that there's no inputs for further investments. The plan will consume its residual amount for the insurance charge. That is one. And the second part about investment-linked plans is that, I don't know if you know this, you can actually increase your coverage in an investment-linked plans pretty flexibly. You can scale it up, scale it down. And I don't know how much coverage he has currently from the Tokio Marine plan as well as this PruVantage. So for my first input, I would suggest for him to possibly increase his critical illness coverage. Critical illness, as to how I always share with private clients, is you need to plan it to potentially replace income, just in case you're not healthy enough due to stroke, due to cancer, and you are facing a loss of long-term income. Your medical bills are settled by the medical insurance, but your long-term income, you need somewhere to recover big amounts, and that's where critical illness comes in. Right now, for his situation, he's a kid on board, a 6-month-old, and his income is very important for the next 20 years because there's going to be a lot of expenses, correct? So as a ballpark figure, based on what he shared in terms of income, I think the CI coverage needs to be at least $500,000. That's why I'll firstly suggest, maybe not in terms of reducing premium, but really stretching the investment link plan to give as much coverage in the critical illness front. If not, he might need to source a new term plan. The other part about investment link plans is to always check on where the investments are towards. Does it still suit your risk appetite and your goals right now? Because I've seen many a times that someone bought an investment link plan 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and it was a 50-50 equity bond allocation. Back then, there was not much of investment understanding, therefore started to do the dollar cost average into a 50-50 fund. But then today, maybe he knows a lot more in investing already, he likes equities in certain segments, he wants to express his market outlook differently, then double check where the fund allocations are towards. You can always make fund switches in investment link plans, usually without charges. So with that ironed out, let's go to answer back the question, what should I do with monthly savings to fulfill the following goals as early as possible? So I actually quizzed him on the first one, which is for kids' education. Is he regularly building up something for his kid or not? And he shared that his current plan is to self-automate dollar cost averaging into VOO and QQQ on IBKR platform on a monthly basis. I support dollar cost averaging a lot. It's a very simple approach to gradually accumulate. VOO is actually Vanguard's S&P 500 ETF. It's one of the lowest cost, if not the lowest cost option there. It's a good product. QQQ is actually investing in NASDAQ. So these are both equity funds. And as I can see, there's nothing invested into Singapore blue chips, right? Now, at this current market situation, it's very different from 5-10 years ago. Back then, I was already an advisor, and the hot solutions then were to buy, for example, OCBC BCIP plan, which is blue chip investment plan. This is where parents can set up an account with kid, and they do a dollar cost average into blue chips like OCBC, Keppel Corp, Singtel, etc. etc. This was really hot 5-10 years ago. It's not that OCBC doesn't know about S&P 500. It's that back 5-10 years ago, this was a very easy, simple solution. The reason I brought this up is to bring about this discussion. Right now, investing into S&P 500 and NASDAQ is likely the hot thing. It's actually safe to assume that there will be a newer thing 5-10 years time later, correct? Just like what has happened to ideas investing in Singapore blue chip plans, they just don't seem that attractive right now because recent 5-10 years performance isn't that spectacular. But that could also be where there is good value. Right now, the question of saving up for kids' education and parents' money allowance doesn't seem too difficult on first glance, because if he's saving 4,000-5,000 easily, that should be 50,000 saved up, and that's not even including bonuses that he's getting. In 10 years, this could easily be 500,000 as an extra pot already, and by then, the loan will have been almost cleared up. To set aside 1,200 for parents, maybe 100,000 bucket can last for the next 10 years with it. And by then also their CPF Life will have started paying out already, correct? So they may not need that 1,000 too. And I can also share that in many situations, when families go through ups and downs, an adult goes through pay increment, pay decrement, it is actually okay to reduce the amount to parents. I've seen that happen many times already. Then what about for kids' education? If we were to look in terms of tuition fees, this screenshot is NTU's accounting fee that I've highlighted because that's where I went to myself. The current price for a Singapore citizen is still less than 10,000 per year. So there are a lot of subsidies that government gives and it's really not too expensive yet. So don't worry about the pot. I think you are on track. Look more for abundance mindset. I have enough. I can confidently venture into something bravely. I think the approach can be changed gradually over time. And also actually quiz, is there anything that's preventing him from investing more? Because he's keeping a lot of cash, correct? And he's actually shared that he has a younger brother who is single and self-employed and currently not earning very well yet. And he's probably unable to afford his HDB flat when he turns 35. So this amount that he's saved up in UOB stash is planned as a deposit for his future HDB. Wow, fantastic brother. Maybe I'll touch on the UOB stash account. In a previous video, I've mentioned about UOB One account and UOB Stash account. If you haven't seen it, it actually looks like this. You would realize that UOB Stash account doesn't need you to make any salary crediting or stuff. It's just purely you jam monies in, and as long as you increase or maintain your monthly average, you would get a higher bonus interest tier. The optimal amount again is 100,000 in UOB Stash, and it's not 5% interest, it is an effective interest of 3%. Having said that, this amount saved up inside UOB Stash account doesn't quite match the need that his brother has. Firstly, that house purchase is still not on the horizon, so it doesn't really need to be that liquid. I would suggest that he parks it into Singapore savings bonds, where right now you're guaranteed 3%, and next 10 years you're also guaranteed that 3% and above. It's much better than keeping in UOB Stash account, whereby one day they might reduce the rates and then you risk long-term interest returns. The bad part about buying his brother the HDB flat is that in future when the parents go, there is no one that can inherit the flat, correct? Right now, he's owning a HDB flat. If his brother buys one for himself, then according to HDB rules, you cannot own two and the parents' HDB flat needs to be sold away. But the good part also is if he buys his brother a HDB flat, the brother can use probably room rental income to generate himself some finances, and it's something that I've also shared before in the channel. I'll leave links above for such an approach. So net, I do believe that he has resources. It's just building up a separate investment pot long term, and from what I see, he can easily build up to 300,000 even as there's increased expenses with now one more extra mouth to feed. Which leads to this next segment. On my sharing to him as a new father of a 6-month-old kid, there are 3 points that I'd like to share when I look back on my own journey. The first is that plan properly where should preschool be. I've seen friends who go to preschools that's very far away. There's extra transport costs, it's very painful in terms of time, you need extra traveling time. And if your preschool is nearby to yourself or your parents, it saves a lot of logistics, and all these adds up over time. Then another point about preschool is that personally, I don't quite believe in play groups. I feel it's a waste of time because for play groups, at 1.5 years old, you can actually enroll. But usually what they do is just watch TV and eat and nap. There isn't too much of learning yet. So I've actually sent my 2 kids to N1, nursery 1 onwards, and I've actually skipped for them the preschool. Currently, it seems that his mother is very involved, and I think playgroup option need not be explored and it can save him some money. The second is that there are a lot of child enrichment programs that are parent money magnets. I see a lot of peer pressure. I see a lot of glamorous looking classes like piano skills, violin skills, memory skills. They are all looking very nice, but usually more often than not, they don't really change or improve a kid that much, at least in my opinion. I don't quite see the ROI in these extra enrichment classes, which I term them parent money magnets. Then the third is that whatever money you saved up, go on more holidays first. Right now, with a kid less than 2-year-old, you only pay a bassinet price when you take aeroplane. It's much cheaper than a full seat when your kid turns above 2. So some of my best memories when I look back at my kid, we visited Japan, we visited Vietnam. So these are things that I think are worthwhile to spend for every new parent. Let me know if you agree in the comment sections below, and as always, smash the like button. And I have this previous video to share with you, my total breakdown in terms of holiday expenditure. If you haven't seen it, check it out. I think it'll be an interesting topic also. Your dog Zanam, and see you there. Take care as always. Goodbye.